Hello, welcome back. This is Jeff Byers, and I'll be your instructor for this video tutorial series. And we're going to be talking about how to UV map a short sleeve shirt, and we'll be using UV tiles. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go Control 1 on this. I'm going to click on these guys right here. Okay, because these will duplicate it over. Duplicated over. So I'm going to go ahead and get these done. Let's get into object mode here. Makes it a little easier to select those. Control 1, just isolate those by themselves. And these are just teeny, aren't they? And this is the fabric or the stitching or whatever you want to call it that will hold the buttons on. Okay. Now these aren't. This is so ridiculous to try to UV map them, but again, they're so small you never see it. But for this example, I'm going to go ahead and UV map these, which is insane. But I'm just going to show you how you can use UV tiles with the shirt with the buttons and you know, and the stitching, if you want to call it, that goes inside the button to hold it on. So with that said, let's go ahead and automatic map those. Those are it's so ridiculously small. I'm not going to be too picky about that, so I'm going to go to UV and then automatic map and go in here and just kind of reset it and then project it. So there's that. And it gives me a terrible, and this is why I don't really like using using automatic map, because it just gives you a terrible looking object that you have to kind of sew together, which is pretty bad. But it's just how it is. It's the way the object is angled. You know, when you're using automatic map, it should be facing, you know, but this is angled, right? It's not facing a particular direction. It's slightly off kilter with the rotation. So that causes all kinds of problems with a automatic map, because if you have a cube, you know, it would automatic map really nice because its axes is facing Z, X, and Y, right? The faces are. But this is like angled, so it's really a problem. And automatic mapping doesn't like that. Just kind of give you a heads up on that. I can move and sew. This is kind of a great opportunity to move and sew these pieces here. I find where that edge is. So that edge right there, if I go into edge mode and I double click on that, and I can move and sew. Okay, so how does that work? Well, let's see. Let's see what we don't want to. Let's go ahead and we know this is going to be move and sew. Let's do that first. So select those. Because if I select all three of these, it's going to want to try to connect this one over here, which is not good. So I'm going to go over here like that and just go to sew and move and sew. You can see that it moves that particular object over. I'm going to show you what it looks like here. Click on the shell and just move it up like that. So now just kind of fix that. And so what I want to do is I'm going to fix it even more, where I click on this edge here and you go to move and sew. So this is a perfect example of how to move and sew UVs, okay, to get them looking better, okay. So let's click on this edge right here, move and sew, okay, and let's move this shell out a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. There we go. So there we go. We got this little glitch right here. We see that we've got this little piece that probably needs to go to that little piece there. So let's move that around here. And you can see that if I click on this edge, okay, like that, that the edge is over here. So what you want to do is you basically want to cut that first, okay? So I know where that edge is. So I click on the edge and I go to cut and cut. And I can now move that UV shell. Whoops. This UV shell. Let's see. Did I get that selected? Yeah, that UV shell. Looks like there's overlapping UV shells here. That UV shell. There we go. So I can move that. And I'm going to get rid of that edge as well. Okay, so cut that. So I've got two of those. Cut. You can see how I'm moving these around. Okay, so now these are separate. Let's move those out of the way. Okay, so that's good. Now I can focus on this guy right here. So we've got two shells here. I'm going to go to edge and click on these edges here. Again, this is kind of ridiculous to spend this much time on it, but it gives you an idea how I can move and show and clean things up. So I'm going to move and sew those. That's nice. That looks good now. Move and sew that one. There we go. It gives you practice too to getting all these UVs move and sewed, and you can see they're starting to look a lot better, right? Looks good. Awesome. These look good. I think these are okay. All right. Let's go ahead and select them all and unfold again. There we go. That looks much nicer. There we go. And you can see that we've got that cut. It's kind of weird right here. Okay. So we can see where that is. So that edge that goes all the way along here kind of corresponds with this edge here, doesn't it? So I can go in here and move and sew, right? There we go. And get that look. You can do the same thing on this side over here. And just go to move and sew again. There we go. You can get that weird looking thing there, whatever that is. And it doesn't really matter to me as long as the top part is without a seam. And I do see a seam right here. Not sure where that is. Let me find out where that is here real quick. And that could be a problem. So that's that seam right there. So how do we get rid of a seam like that? Basically what you have to do is you have to cut this part out. So I'm going to click on this edge right here and just cut it all the way along here. Whoops. And hold the shift key and double click on that and just cut that off. Just cut it like that. And we can take that shell and move it out of the way. Now we can sew this shell together. This piece right here. And move and sew. There we go. And we want to click on this UV shell and then unfold it again. There we go. And then we want to unfold this one again. There we go. That looks good. So we'll do the same thing with this piece over here. Again, this is so ridiculous to spend so much time on this. I know you guys are all laughing probably. Haha. But it helps you understand the tools better so you can do these cuts and sews, right? So that's good. Good practice for you guys. So I'm going to click on this guy right here. The shell looks good on this side. I'm just going to unfold it. I'm going to click on this shell and unfold it. Probably unfold everything again. Okay. Good practice, like I said. So this is like one thread piece. If I look underneath here, if I click on this object, let's go to object mode again, selection mode, and just kind of hit the F key and rotate around. You can see that's starting to look better. Again, I'm not, it's just crazy to worry about the seams in here because you'll never see those. In fact, I probably could get rid of those. But just for argument's sake, let's say this was a big piece and we had to take care of that. We could easily do that. I think these shells are on top of each other, right? Maybe? I think they are. Yeah, they probably are. Anyway. So we just have to move and sew those. Okay, so let's move and sew again. Cut, move and sew. There we go. And that piece is done. Go to this one. Same thing. Let's get this guy out of the way. And let's move and sew these pieces here as well. Okay, there we go. So everything looks good. So if I select both of them again, at the same time, I go to shell, select them all, and unfold. And now I can go use the layout tool. So it doesn't matter for this one what it really looks like. If you get like a super close up and you want the thread that's holding the thread or the stitching that's holding the button on, then you would probably have to lay these out properly. But right now, let's just move those over to the side. They're good. Okay, so move those. All right, so now we've got what looks like the thread, let's go ahead and scale that down just a smidgen. There we go. And that way it just gives us a little more room to move this stuff around. And I would never lay these out like this. This is kind of weird. They're angled. Also, I don't like angled pieces. So I'm just going to move and rotate, just kind of move these out of the way. Again, I'm not too worried because these are so small. You're never going to see it. I just want to make sure they're not, there's a little space between them. Okay. So that's good. We've got everything laid out. Now the next step is to go ahead and get all this stuff showing. Okay, there we go. Man, I'm all whacked out in my viewport here. There we go. Okay, so this is everything on the shirt. Okay, so if I select everything, so you want to go into object mode and select everything. Okay, and then you can see it will show up in your UV tiles, and you can continue messing around by going to UV shell. Okay, and you can continue, you know, getting everything in together, even though it's not combined. The shirt's not even combined, but I went into object mode. All of the pieces are in object mode, so I click on the object mode up here. I go to selection mode here, and I marquee select everything, and that lets you see all your pieces laid out. Okay, so yeah, the textile density is way crazy compared to what the textile density is of the shirt, but that doesn't matter because these are really small pieces. Okay, that's okay. That's not a problem. Okay, this is an example for example's sake, right? Because really it's too small to see. I would probably put the button just add a material, an AI standard surface material to the button and the thread that holds the button on. So I wouldn't even have done this. This is just an example of how you use Udemy tiles. Okay? All right, so the next step would be, of course, to make sure all the buttons have the same transform UV map. So I would make sure they were all together. Okay? So I transform all those, and I'll show you that in the next video.